When the divorced woman woke up, she found a big diamond ring on her hand, and on the floor lay a cute little plush toy. As she stared in shock, she suddenly remembered that last night a strange man had proposed to her, and they even hugged. Terrified, she quickly covered her mouth. Meanwhile, the man also received blessings from his friends, and when he looked carefully at the photo they sent, he saw a marriage registration form. Realizing that they had somehow gotten married to strangers, both were dumbfounded. It turned out that after drinking heavily last night, in a wave of impulsive decisions, they went straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau, got married in front of friends as witnesses, and even the diamond ring on her finger was bought by the man after the ceremony. Seeing the plush toy scattered on the ground reminded her of the embarrassing scenes from last night. Understanding the situation, the woman collapsed onto the floor. She quickly went to knock on the man's door, but there was no response. She took out her phone to call him, only to remember she didn't even have his number. Helpless, she called the Civil Affairs Bureau instead, asking how to revoke the marriage registration. But the clerk firmly refused, saying none of her reasons met the requirements for cancellation. The only option was to go through divorce proceedings. At the same time, the man hurried back. Just as the woman stepped out of the elevator, she saw him, and they immediately started arguing. The woman blamed him for everything, but the man insisted it was just because of alcohol, even accusing her of deliberately seducing him. They argued back and forth until the man noticed the plush toy on the ground. Suddenly panicked, he asked if nothing had actually happened between them last night. The woman hesitantly said, "Probably not." After discussing, they agreed to resolve things formally. Soon, they went together to the Civil Affairs Bureau, where the staff scolded them. How could you register marriage when you weren't even sober? The two begged for their marriage to be annulled, but the staff angrily replied, "Yesterday you cried and begged us to register you. Now today you cry and beg us to cancel. People like you are impossible to deal with." Then the staff revealed the truth. The previous night, seeing they were drunk and insistent, the Bureau actually didn't process their marriage registration. Instead, they persuaded them to come back the next day. Hearing this, both of them finally breathed a sigh of relief. Once they learned the real situation, the case was resolved, and both promised to keep the incident a secret. Later, as the man left, the woman looked toward a cafe and thought of her past with her ex-husband, from their initial vows of love to eventually drifting apart. Every time she recalled it, she felt deep sadness, but for the sake of moving on, she had tried to let go. She never expected that soon she would encounter her ex-husband again. Not long after, while attending a friend's wedding, she unexpectedly saw her ex. Though they hadn't seen each other for years, her emotions stirred intensely. She adjusted her makeup, planning to greet him, but when she approached, she froze. The moment he turned his head, she quickly spun around, afraid he might notice her. Pretending to cling to another man's arm, she slipped away. From a corner, she secretly glanced at him and his new girlfriend, watching them laugh together. Her heart felt sour. She confided in her close friends, complaining that her ex's girlfriend was flaunting her figure to mock her. After all, her ex had once said they broke up because they were unhappy. But she believed it was because he disliked her for not having a good body. Her friends, however, reacted with indifference. Her friends were unfazed by such things, but the stubborn woman remained deeply bothered. So much so that, while at work, when she overheard a client saying he wanted to find a voluptuous woman as his marriage partner, she immediately thought of her ex-husband's new girlfriend. The very next second, she lashed out at the client. "If you want someone with a perfect figure, maybe take a good look at your own conditions first." The client stormed out in anger. Seeing her distress, her colleague advised her to talk to her ex-husband directly and get clarity. She called him and demanded to know the real reason for their breakup. Her ex repeated the same old line, but she laughed bitterly and asked if it wasn't simply because he had found another woman. He replied that their relationship had lost its most basic element, trust, and that was the true reason for their separation. Disheartened, the woman took the elevator home. At the stairwell, she noticed a crowd gathered and went to ask what had happened. She was told that a single woman living in Unit 105 had choked to death while eating chicken wings alone at home. The woman nearly fainted on the spot. She convinced herself it was a tragedy of loneliness, one that could happen to her as well if she remained unmarried. From then on, every time she saw chicken wings on her table, she warned herself not to eat them alone at home. That evening in the shower, images of the drunken night with the stranger suddenly flashed through her mind. Her head drooped unconsciously, and she jolted back to awareness, terrified she might die unexpectedly. She quickly called her best friend, asking her to stay in touch constantly over the next few days, just to make sure she was still alive. She thought this would ease her fear. But that night while sleeping, she suddenly felt dizzy and short of breath, stumbling and collapsing hard onto the floor. Summoning all her strength, she managed to dial 119 for emergency help. Soon she was taken away by rescue workers. Unfortunately, due to the firefighters' carelessness, she was transported to the hospital still wearing her revealing nightdress. To make matters worse, the doctor on duty was none other than her longtime acquaintance, Damme. When he began the examination, he couldn't even bring himself to look directly at her. Flustered, he quickly covered her with a blanket, then carefully attached the monitoring equipment. After a thorough checkup, the diagnosis was simple: she was suffering from vertigo, but her life was not in danger. Seeing how exposed she was, Damme took off his own white coat and gently draped it over her shoulders, fastening the buttons himself. The woman gazed at the handsome doctor before her, captivated. At that moment, it felt like Damme was the only one in her world. Later, as she sat alone with an drip, she noticed other patients surrounded by family members, while she had no one. The thought made her feel utterly miserable. A female colleague asked Damme why he had given the patient his coat. He simply said it was because she looked disheveled and he wanted to help. Seeing her alone, he walked over with a drink in hand and sat beside her. As she looked at him, recalling his tenderness, she could no longer suppress the feelings stirring inside her heart. In the next instant, she blurted out her love. Damme was stunned. Thus, the divorced woman who had been hospitalized for dizziness unexpectedly found herself falling in love at first sight, with the very doctor treating her. He asked if she was hallucinating because of her illness, yet the woman insisted she was completely clear-headed, even recounting everything that had happened before with full accuracy. Just then, her best friend arrived. Rushing to her side, she showered the woman with concern. But when the friend saw her wearing a doctor's white coat, she wondered if the woman had lost her mind after everything she'd gone through. She quickly tore open the package that the woman had been clutching, only to realize that she had asked for her coat to be brought from home. Understanding now, the friend teasingly asked, "Do you like him?" Embarrassed, Damme stood up and left. The woman, frustrated, blamed her friend for ruining her moment of love. After finishing her treatment at the hospital, she asked the nurse if she could wear Damme's coat home. Knowing her situation, the nurse kindly agreed. Meanwhile, Damme ran into Suhyok, who had come to the hospital after being notified. The nurse told him the woman had already left. When Damme and Suhyok crossed paths, he asked, "Why are you two already like this when you just got married?" But Suhyok replied that they were never married at all. Everything that happened that night was just a drunken misunderstanding. Hearing this truth, Damme felt secretly relieved. On the way home, the woman sat in the car, feeling like she was losing her mind. First, her boyfriend dumped her. Then, she almost registered marriage with a former classmate she hadn't seen in 24 years. Now she had impulsively confessed her love to Damme. She mocked herself as a crazy woman. Clutching Damme's white coat when she got home, her heart ached. That night in bed, thinking of her rash confession, she couldn't fall asleep. The next day, she secretly went to the hospital again. When she saw how handsome Damme looked at work, her heart raced. Mustering her courage, she approached him and confessed once more. But Damme rejected her without hesitation, explaining that he didn't want to interfere in a love triangle, nor did he want to ruin his friendship with Suhyok over romance. The woman clarified that she was only expressing her feelings honestly, nothing more. But hearing his refusal, she could only turn around awkwardly and leave. But what she never expected was that the very next day, Damme himself would come to her, and instead of rejecting her again, he gave her a warm embrace. This tender moment, however, was witnessed by Suhyok, who instantly felt bitter. Remembering their kiss the night before, and now seeing her in Damme's arms, he muttered angrily that she was a fickle flirt. The next day in the elevator, Suhyok confronted her. Still upset from yesterday, he lashed out cruelly, insulting her appearance and mocking her heavy makeup. After leaving the elevator, the woman warned him that if it weren't for the circumstances, she would have already cursed him out. But Soo-hyuk, instead of backing off, followed her into her car, pestering her with accusations and insults. He ranted that he didn't want her, yet he couldn't stand to let anyone else have her either. The woman was disgusted. She told him men like that were the worst, because they only end up breaking women's hearts. But she still couldn't understand why Soo-hyuk was so furious. This time, he exploded, "What are you, some kind of player? Don't you remember what's happened in the last 2 days? How can you toss around feelings like they mean nothing? Even soap operas wouldn't dare to be this melodramatic." The woman explained that the whole incident had been nothing but a drunken misunderstanding, but her confession to Do-hoon was genuine. She truly liked him and had been captivated by his kindness. Soo-hyuk was left speechless, later brooding alone in the park. Not long after, the woman and her girlfriends secretly watched Do-hoon from a distance. When one of her friends commented on how handsome her boyfriend was, a young girl suddenly appeared behind them. Before they could react, the girl declared confidently, "I'm Do-hoon's girlfriend." Feeling her claim to Do-hoon being challenged, the woman scolded the girl sternly. But the child, utterly shameless, puffed out her chest proudly and mocked, "With your body, how could you even wear a wedding dress?" The woman glanced down at herself and was left speechless. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk happened to overhear a friend's advice. If you like someone, just be bold and confess. Sometimes love works out by accident. Inspired, he decided to confront his feelings. He went to the woman's home, only to find her cooking. She explained it was because she'd heard that Do-hoon liked that particular dish. Soo-hyuk's face darkened immediately. To him, it felt humiliating. On the very first day after confessing to Do-hoon, she was already trying to please him. Even more awkwardly, she offered him a taste, asking if it matched Do-hoon's palate. Watching her glowing with happiness, Soo-hyuk could no longer deny the truth. She was in love with his friend. Depressed, he later dragged Do-hoon out for drinks. Though he knew the woman's heart was elsewhere, he didn't show hostility, only presenting himself as pitiful and downcast. Eventually, he staggered back home drunk, collapsing right in front of his apartment. The woman happened to find him there, reeking of alcohol, muttering nonsense, even calling her a heartless woman. She didn't take it seriously and tried to help him inside. But as she bent to lift him, he suddenly slumped onto her, pinning her down. She froze in shock. Just as she was about to push him away, Soo-hyuk grabbed her, held her face tenderly, and leaned closer, about to kiss her. But before their lips met, he passed out cold. The woman let out a long sigh of relief, embarrassed and unsure what to do. At that moment, a young boy stepped out of the elevator. Curious, he asked what was happening. She learned that this was Soo-hyuk's son Min-yu. Seeing their strange position, he innocently asked, "If a man and a woman lie together like that, will they have a baby?" Flustered, the woman told him not to worry. Together, they managed to carry Soo-hyuk inside. She even kindly went to buy hangover medicine and instructed Min-yu to give it to his father when he woke up. The next morning, Soo-hyuk groggily woke up. Min-yu recounted everything that had happened, and Soo-hyuk suddenly remembered the previous night. He felt utterly ashamed. To make matters worse, as soon as he stepped out the door, he ran into the woman. Awkwardness filled the air. Inside the elevator, she suddenly asked him, "Are you feeling lonely these days?" He denied it, but she pressed, "Don't you remember what happened last night?" Then she handed him a business card. "Come by my wedding agency sometime. I'll help you find the right partner." Soo-hyuk looked down at the card, embarrassed enough to want to crawl into a hole. Later, when he went downstairs to collect his mail, he happened to see the woman dressed in a strikingly sexy outfit. He soon learned she was going out on a date with Do-hoon. Seeing her dressed provocatively on her way out, he couldn't hold back and ridiculed her with cutting sarcasm. She ignored him completely, humming a tune and leaving with a confident smile. Later, when she met Do-hoon for their date, all they did was watch a movie and have dinner. Aside from that, there were no intimate gestures. The woman grew frustrated. If their relationship was going to progress, she would have to take the initiative. That evening, she invited Do-hoon to her apartment. Determined to win him over, she carefully set the stage, lipstick, a revealing nightgown, a romantic atmosphere with candles and wine. Once everything was ready, the doorbell rang. She rushed to open it, only to find not her boyfriend, but her neighbor Suhayak. The moment he saw her dressed so seductively, he couldn't resist mocking her again. His eyes wandered inside the room, spotting the red candles, and he immediately understood she was preparing for a date with Do-hoon. Panicked that her boyfriend might arrive at any moment, the woman shoved Suhayak out the door, but as fate would have it, Do-hoon arrived just then. Suhayak lingered deliberately, greeting him with exaggerated cheer, trying in every way to prevent him from going inside. The woman, exasperated, eventually managed to get rid of Suhayak and welcome Do-hoon in. Inside the romantic setting, the couple shared a bottle of vintage wine, watching a drama on TV where the leads were caught in a passionate embrace. The mood between them grew heavy with anticipation. Their eyes locked, their bodies drew closer, they were about to kiss. But suddenly, Suhayak sent a barrage of text messages, disrupting the atmosphere. Frustrated, the woman shut off her phone and leaned back into Do-hoon's arms. Just as their passion was about to ignite again, her pet dog bounded in, biting playfully at Do-hoon's pant leg. The couple laughed awkwardly, shooed the dog away, and tried once more. But then the doorbell rang again. Reluctantly, she opened the door, only to find Suhayak standing there smugly. Rage boiled inside her. She could have torn him to pieces. Now, instead of romance, the three of them ended up sitting together in the living room, watching a childish cartoon. Suhayak drank beer relentlessly, one glass after another, dragging down the mood until there was no chance for intimacy between the couple. Later that night, when the woman finally tried again with Do-hoon, she remembered she had eaten squid earlier. Mortified about her breath, she replaced her kiss with a simple hug. Do-hoon looked confused, wondering if he had done something wrong. She blushed with embarrassment, wishing she could bite her tongue off. Back home, she furiously brushed her teeth, cursing herself for ruining their first chance at intimacy over something so trivial. The next day, during another date, the woman accidentally saw loan notifications on Do-hoon's phone. She froze with worry, but he reassured her that a little debt was normal, and asked if she would abandon him because of it. She shook her head firmly. Of course she wouldn't. Later, at work, she reflected on his situation and resolved that they could build a better future together with the strength of their love. That evening, a surprise client visited her wedding agency, Suhayak's son. He earnestly asked her to help find a woman who could make his father happy. Touched, she promised to do her best. Later, Suhayak learned his son had a volunteer event the next day. He promised to go along, but a last-minute work shift kept him from showing up. Disappointed, Minyu felt abandoned, until the woman appeared unexpectedly. She showed Minyu photos of potential candidates for his father, but the boy wrinkled his nose, saying he wanted a natural beauty. The woman laughed in surprise. Such women were rare in Korea these days. Learning that Minyu was going to the volunteer event alone, she decided to accompany him. At the event, people immediately recognized her beauty and presence. It turned out that the woman was once a member of a famous girl group. The moment she appeared at the volunteer event, she became the center of everyone's attention. Minyu's class teacher, however, was not pleased. While the woman was carrying coal as part of the service project, the teacher spitefully increased the weight of her load, hoping to embarrass her. Meanwhile, Suhayak, who had just finished his overtime shift, arrived at the site. Seeing his son with the woman warmed his heart. Quietly, as she carried the heavy coal, Suhayak followed close behind, ready to help her if needed. As the woman descended the steps, her foot slipped. She stumbled forward, straight into Suhayak's arms. For a brief moment, their eyes locked. Flustered, she quickly pulled away, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. Noticing her limping afterward, Suhayak rushed to her side. When she admitted she had twisted her ankle, he knelt down, removed her shoe, and saw the swelling. Concern filled his eyes. Without hesitation, he drove her home. At her apartment, he tried to help her out of the car, but she refused. Then suddenly, he scooped her up in a bridal carry. Unluckily, Do-hoon happened to arrive at that exact moment, watching from his car. Inside, Suhayak laid the woman gently on the sofa and brought her hot water. When she tried to decline his help, he insisted, carefully soaking her injured ankle. His tenderness made her heart waver. Remembering that he was raising his son alone, sympathy welled up inside her.